Hello and welcome back to another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I'm Eric. I did 11 years in prison and I talk about prison stuff. Today I'm talking about how you can avoid sexual assaults in prison, kind of some tips, and what to do if you are sexually assaulted, what you can do. This is by no means a definitive guide on how to avoid stuff. This is just some things that I found that might help you. I went 11 years in prison and I was never sexually assaulted, so it helped me. Maybe it could help you. This video was suggested to me by one of my Patreon patrons, Kenneth Hyman. If you guys want to give me some suggestions for future videos and you want to see them on here and you want to support the channel, I do have a Patreon page that is linked below in the description. With that, be sure to like and subscribe. We'll get into the video. Usually in prison, guys who are sexually assaulted are guys who are young, they're new to the system, they're kind of naive, they haven't been through the prison system before, they don't know how things work, they don't know the ropes, all of that stuff. So it makes them easier targets. And they're usually guys who aren't established yet, so they don't have a lot of friends or anything like that, they don't have people to look out for them. So my first tip for avoiding sexual assault is to not be those things. Even if you are young and new to the system and naive, you want it to appear that you're not. If there is a way to make yourself look older, make yourself look older. For most of the time that I was in prison, I wore a beard and long hair. Even when I couldn't grow a real thick beard, I still wore facial hair just to make myself look a little bit older, and I still wore long hair to make myself look a little bit older. Without long hair and a beard, I look like I'm, 13, 14 years old. In prison, I did not want to appear young, and I did not want to appear naive. And the way that I accomplished that second part, not appearing naive, is I didn't share my business with a bunch of people. I didn't tell people that I just got there. I didn't hang out with a bunch of people. I didn't put my business out there, and I said very little. Sometimes, if you're quiet, people don't really know how to read you, and that's a good thing, because if you're not this super tough character, nobody needs to know that. They learn that by listening to you talk or seeing how you interact with other people. They can sense that you might be a little bit timid or something like that through your interaction. So if you stay quiet and you keep to yourself, you mind your own business, a lot of times it's hard to get a read on someone, and that can help you in the long run. You also want to make sure you're prepared and alert. You don't want to look like an easy target. So when you leave the cell, you want to make sure your clothes are well taken care of. Your shirts are going to look nice, your pants are going to look nice, your hair is going to be combed, your teeth are going to be brushed. You don't want to look like you're just walking out of the cell half asleep, because that makes you an easy target. And I talked a little bit about this in some of my prison survival tactics videos. If you haven't seen those, I'll put a thing up. But you definitely want to look like you've been awake for a minute when you walk out of your cell. You don't want to walk out the cell looking like you're half asleep. But that's not just an appearance. You also want to make sure you are prepared. You need to make sure you're in shape and ready to go. You need to keep your head on a swivel and look for potential threats. In El Dorado, when I first got there, they would open the doors first thing in the morning, which, chow in the morning was at around 4 a.m. So 4 a.m. they would run the doors sometimes, and that was true whether or not you were going to chow. They would just run the doors. And people would run up in other folks' cells while they were still asleep, and they would beat them up or stab them, rape them, whatever. And that's kind of why they stopped running the doors for everybody first thing in the morning. They changed it around to where you actually had to press the button to get out of your cell. But my entire time down, if they opened that door, I was up. I don't care if I was in a dead sleep. As soon as I heard that door run, I was on my feet at the front of the cell. I didn't want anybody to get the impression that they could just run up in my cell when I was asleep and put hands on me or do whatever. I was awake when that door ran, and you have to train yourself to be able to do that. Another thing, you don't really want to appear weak, and there's several different aspects of that. You know, fitness is a part of it. Not that going to the weight pit is going to make you a tough guy, because there's a lot of guys who can lift weights, but they're kind of soft. They're weak individuals, but it looks good. You know, guys see you in the weight pit every day, and they're going to assume that you're strong. You know, that's a pretty easy assumption to make. But you also don't want to have certain behaviors or habits that make you look weak. You know, when you walk across the yard, don't look at the ground, don't slump your shoulders, don't avert your eyes. You stand up straight, shoulders back, chest out a little bit, and you walk with purpose and intention. You don't want to look like you're afraid to be there. You don't want to look out of place. You don't want someone to see you and say, hey, he doesn't belong here. Maybe that's an easy target. You want to make yourself look like, you know, you're top dog, kind of. You know, you don't want to poke out your chest and mean mug everybody like you're a fake tough guy and trying to be tough. But if you stand up straight and you walk with purpose, it makes you look like you have some self-discipline and some self-respect. And a lot of times guys are going to see that, and they're not going to associate that with someone who's an easy target. And another part of that is looking through people. You don't want to make eye contact with someone who is a known booty bandit or prison rapist and then quickly avert your eyes. When you see somebody, you just look straight through them. You're not even trying to make eye contact. You're just looking through them like they're not even there. Like you don't even give a fuck they exist. That's a part of not appearing to be weak. You also want to be careful about the company you keep. You don't want to hang out with a bunch of guys who are no good, who are kind of weak, because, you know, you are the company you keep. If you get seen hanging around a bunch of dudes like that, people are going to make the assumption that you are weak as well. And also on, you know, the company you keep, don't hang out with people who are booty bandits. Don't hang out with people who are rapists. And if you don't know, figure it out. You need to know the lay of the land. You need to know what people are about before you go hang out with them. Don't hang out with a bunch of people that you don't know, because that might get you into trouble. I used to see guys come in from RDU all the time who literally just got into the prison system, and they would sit down at the poker table and be playing poker with a known booty bandit or prison rapist, and they had no idea who they were sitting down with. They had no idea who they were getting themselves in debt with. You need to know what people are about, who they are, and kind of run a make before you start forming friendships or relationships with people, because, you know, if you form any sort, I don't care if it's a very superficial sort of interaction, relationship, whatever, where you just, you know, this is my laundry guy, I'm giving him stamps to wash my clothes, or whatever the deal may be, whatever your interaction is with a person, you need to know who that person is and what they're about. Otherwise, you could get in debt to somebody, or maybe they say, hey man, you know, we haven't really hung out. I want you to come out to yard at such and such time and kick it with me, or come back to the classroom area over in education and kind of kick it with me. And in reality, what they're doing is trying to lure you to a blind spot so they can rape you. You don't want to do that. So know the lay of the land, know who people are. And that will also help you hang out with good dudes. And that can help you quite a bit, because if you're hanging out with guys who are well established, a bunch of lifers or old heads or something like that, chances are people aren't going to mess with you because they respect who you hang out with. Once again, you are the company you keep. So if you hang out with good dudes who are stand-up dudes, who are well established, who pay their debts, who don't go for that bullshit, a lot of people are going to associate you with that, and they're not going to mess with you. But to expand on something that I was talking about just a second ago, when it comes to going to certain areas, don't go to secluded areas by yourself. You know, I worked in the infirmary in El Dorado, and there was a guy who was a very notorious rapist, notorious prison rapist, and he would come back in the infirmary and buff the floors. Now, I did not want to get caught in a room back there, one of the open infirmary rooms or a porter's closet or a med room or utility room or anything like that with that dude. He was about, I don't know, 6'4", 6'5". He's a big dude, 265 pounds. And I did not want to be caught alone in a secluded area with that dude. So if he was coming to the infirmary, I made sure that I worked it out with my schedule that I was out of that infirmary when he got there. Now, if I couldn't make it right with my schedule, I would have left anyway because I'll take the write-up. I'm not going to put myself in a situation where I'm going to be sexually assaulted. I don't care if you write me up and take my stuff away for a few months. You got that to do. I don't give a shit. I'm not dealing with a sexual assault. We're not having that. And another part of that is to make sure you're not hanging out in blind spots. In other words, don't hang out in an area where there's no cameras and there's a booty bandit or a prison rapist around. You don't want to do that. Make sure you are in an area with a lot of other people that's wide open, where the cops can see you, everyone can see you. If there's someone who's making threats against you or giving you a bad vibe and you think they might be a rapist or a booty bandit, make sure that you stay where you can be seen. Another big thing, don't accept gifts from people. I don't care if it's drugs, tobacco, shoes, commissary, green money. I don't care. Don't accept gifts from people, at least not until you're really well established and you know who's who. And when you know who's who, don't accept a gift from a booty bandit. Just don't. Because there's strings attached to everything. There's no such thing as a free lunch. There's always an angle. So don't accept anything from anybody when you first go to prison. It's just a really bad idea. It's a really good way to end up in a train wreck fast. But let's talk about what to do if you actually are sexually assaulted. And this is the difficult one because there's not an easy answer, right? If you report it to staff, you're going to get labeled a snitch. It does not matter if you mention the other person's name or not. And that's an even bigger problem if you need medical attention, if you're seriously injured by whatever assault has taken place. It doesn't matter if you mention the person's name or not. You're still going to be labeled a rat, and you're going to have to deal with that for the rest of your time. Anywhere you go, people are going to try to stick that snitch jacket on you, and you're just going to be screwed, man. And that can end up getting you extorted or get you in fights, or someone might try to, take you out or something. It's just never a good thing when you got a snitch jacket on you. And if you don't report it, you're stuck in the same prison with this person who has assaulted you, and they're going to try to do it again because you didn't tell on them. They didn't get in trouble. There's nothing stopping them. So what do you do in that situation? Well, you can take them out. That's, I'm not an advocate of violence, but if you don't in that situation, you're going to do your time where you might be getting sexually assaulted every day, multiple times a week, or, something like that. You're essentially going to end up a punk. So if you don't do something about it, it's going to make for a really, really rough sentence. So you can take them out and risk getting yourself more time, and usually that's not the case if you just get in a fight. But if you actually take someone out, in other words, take them off the yard, hurt them so bad that they transfer them to another facility, or they transfer you to another facility, or they put you in Supermax, if you hurt someone that bad, you're probably going to get more time. Probably. But what would you rather do? 10 years in prison where you're raped every day, or 15 years in prison where you're not getting raped? I'll take the 15 years where I'm not getting raped every day. That's just me. But, everybody has to do what they want to do. Everybody has to do what they feel they have to. That said, taking someone out is not necessarily easy. It's not like a gunfight. A knife fight can go on for a long time. And not only can a knife fight go on for a long time, during that exchange, that person is going to be fighting back. I talked about the worst assault I ever saw in the Kansas system, And this guy got stabbed through the neck, and he was still fighting. When you get into a knife fight with someone, it's not like a one-and-done sort of thing. You're fighting for a minute, and they're fighting back, and you better hope you don't lose control of that weapon. You better hope they don't take that weapon from you. Usually in prison and a knife fight, I would recommend someone use a knife that has a lanyard on it, because if you lose that knife, it's going to be used against you, and then a horrible situation just got worse. So you can try to take them out, but there's not a guarantee that you're going to be able to do that, especially because a lot of booty bandits or rapists in prison are really big dudes. That guy I was just talking about who was 6'5", 265 pounds. He'd be a tough one to beat in a straight-up fight, much less, when you have weapons involved, it's not any easier, not necessarily. You might be able to catch him slipping or something, crack him over the back of the head with a steel pipe, but for real, that's no guarantee that they're going to go down. You could also try to put a hit on them. If you got a little bit of money, you can do that and let someone else try to take them out. But if they fail and that person figures out that you paid someone to have them hit over the head or stabbed or something, they're going to be coming for you. Another thing you can do is you can try to take yourself off the yard. Now, you could do that by checking in, but then you're going to run into the same problem as a snitch check. If you check in, people are going to think that you're a PC punk check-in your entire time, and you don't want to deal with that either, because people are going to try to extort you. They're going to try to take advantage of you, beat you up, whatever. You're not going to make your time any easier by checking in. But what you can do is you can try to put in for a transfer if you have your incentive level, or you've been out of trouble, you've been, behaving, essentially. You can try to get a transfer, but not everybody can do that either. In a situation like that, sometimes you just have to do what you have to get off the yard. Now, I'm not saying you should check in, and I'm not even saying you should do a gangster check-in. What a gangster check-in is, you get loud in front of the police and they take you to the hole. You get into it with the cops intentionally, so they'll throw you in the hole, and then you don't have to deal with that problem anymore. But usually that doesn't result in you leaving the facility and getting transferred. Usually you just go to the hole for a little while, and then you come back out, and your problem's just waiting for you when you get out. But if you were to get in trouble, let's say you had a guy who was sexually assaulting you, and you can't take him off the yard because he's big and he knows how to fight and whatnot, but you got this little pipsqueak over here who was talking shit to you the other day, and you can handle him, take him off the yard. Now, it's not right, but it's a matter of survival. If you got to mess that dude up bad enough that they send you to Supermax or they transfer you out, that might be your ticket off the yard. You could also, try to escape. And that's going to get you more time. You could get 3 to 5 years, maybe more time out of a escape attempt, but it will get you sent to Supermax, and you'll probably get transferred somewhere else. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to weigh your options and figure out what is right for you when it comes to survival. If you rush the fence, they're going to dogpile you, and chances are, if you're not actually making good progress at getting through the fence, they're not going to try to shoot you, because there are guards in towers who have guns. In El Dorado, they had 243s, I think. But if it's not a serious attempt, chances are they're not actually going to shoot at you. They're going to send a bunch of officers out to tackle you and maybe rough you up a little bit, and then they're going to send you to Supermax. But at the end of the day, you're going to be put in Supermax. And there's several different ways to accomplish that, right? Yeah, you could try to escape. You could assault someone really bad. You could get caught with a ridiculous amount of drugs that you're having brought in. You could get caught with a cell phone. There's several ways to get yourself taken off of a yard without doing the typical gangster check-in shit, getting loud in front of the police. It's just a really difficult situation. what do you do? Do you get yourself taken off the yard? Do you take them off the yard? Or do you allow yourself to be raped for years on end? I would recommend either taking them out or taking yourself off the yard somehow. Whatever you have to do in a survival situation. There's just not a great answer. You know, what do you do? Do you allow yourself to get raped for years on end? Do you take another person off the yard and risk being severely injured in the process? Do you pay someone to take someone out? Do you do something to intentionally get yourself in trouble and get yourself taken off the yard? It's not a real clear answer. I think in that situation, I would probably try to take them off the yard. Actually, it's not I would just try to take them off the yard. I would take them off the yard. That would be that. And I don't mean to advocate violence, and I don't say that any of this is a good thing to do. That's not what I'm trying to say. In a matter of survival, you have to do what you have to do to get out of that situation. If you're getting raped on a regular basis, if that's your life, no one wants to live that life, and fuck anyone who wants to blame you for doing what you have to do to get out of it. If you're watching this video, I hope you never find yourself in that situation, but I don't accept any liability for it. You know, this is just for educational purposes. But with that, I think I'm going to end the video here. I'm Eric. This has been another episode of From Prison to the Streets. I will see you all later.